A massive restoration project is now reminding us of a time when kings had sacred power. For the first time in 150 years, conservators are revealing one of Britain's greatest medieval treasures. In the 13th century, Westminster Abbey was one of the most important buildings in England. It had been built by the King, Henry III, as a place he could have a hotline to God. And within it, he built something astonishing. A rare sacred floor, known as a Cosmati Pavement, is now being revealed by conservators for the first time in over a century. It had been in such poor condition it had had a protective covering. Even during the 1953 coronation, this medieval masterpiece was hidden from view. Up until recently, this entire pavement was almost completely covered with a carpet, which made it one of England's great lost treasures, because we can now see that it's not only incredibly beautiful, but it's full of medieval mystery. There were once messages which weaved their way all the way around it, and we can't really make them out any longer. There's this mysterious pink orb in the centre. Each part of the pattern means something different. It's as though the whole thing is a secret code. It's a work of art that tantalises historians even today. The floor was built in the most sacred part of the abbey. It's in the central place for ceremony, next to the high altar, behind which is St. Edward's shrine. The pavement connected its creator, King Henry III, with St. Edward and with God. And there are a few intriguing clues to a lost inscription. The thing I find so tantalising about this pavement is these letters. There are just a few of them there and sockets in between where there were obviously other letters. It's like a message from another time that we just can't read.
That's exactly what it is. These few letters remaining from an inscription that made this the most important and unique Cosmati pavement. It's the only one that we know of that had a very long and complicated inscription. Fortunately, there are just a few letters left and enough indents for us to make out what it once said.
So it went all the way round here originally?
All the way around here, all the way around these roundels, and all the way around the outside of the pavement.
So is this the universe here, this pink and red bit?
This is the beginning of the universe. The universe began as this confused mass of matter, all swirling around.
So what does the big message round the sides mean?
The message around the sides was a great riddle. And if you follow me, you can follow me to the end of the universe.
What do you mean?
Because the inscription around here told us when the world was going to end. And it gave a formula in terms of a list of creatures multiplying their lifespans together.
So how did that work?
So it starts by telling us that the hedge, or fence, cepes in Latin, stands for 3 years. And then it says 3 times that for the lifespan of a dog, 9 years. 3 times more will give us horses, 27 years. 3 times that man, 81. All reasonable estimates. Then it goes on to ravens and stags and huge sea monsters and eventually the world.
So does that mean that by adding all these ages up, we'll know when the world is going to end?
If we multiply them all together, we'll find out that the world will live for 3 huge sea monsters. Do you want to know how long that is?
I think I should.
It's 19,683 years, so we can sleep easy tonight.
Why do you think that Henry commissioned this exquisite pavement? What do you think it would have meant to him?
I think it was a way of him connecting with the divine. This, after all, is the pattern, the divine pattern of the universe. So by standing in this position for his coronation, he was drawing down upon himself the power of the universe, the divine power.
So when he was here, it was as though he was in the very centre of the universe, and around his periphery was the information that the universe itself would one day end.
The king is the centre of the social and political universe of his country, and indeed his reign will come to an end, and he was very keen that he would be remembered as being a holy king.
You could simply interpret it as a pavement which is about the end of time, about the end of the world. But because it must have been the pavement on which the coronation happened, you could also interpret it as a pavement which is about underpinning royal power, underpinning a rather grand cosmic view of royal power.
The Cosmati was modelled on Italian floors in Rome. Today, there's a massive conservation project to clean and restore over 80,000 tesserae, small pieces of exotic stone.
This is actually one of the first opportunities in modern times to actually study a Cosmati floor anywhere, which is a fantastic opportunity for us.
It's fantastic, isn't it? It's an exotic, plucked out of its own culture and placed right in the middle of Westminster Abbey. How do you think this floor would originally have been constructed?
We're only speculating, but we believe that the tesserae are likely to have been cut, possibly in Italy, to a template. So we're imagining that the bags of tesserae came with the Italian marblers and they just laid in the pattern.
So what's the quality of the work like?
It's just supreme. The quality of the workmanship is absolutely fantastic. It's faultless. The technique of cutting these very dense, hard stones, they've made it look simple and easy because they're so brilliant. And we're led to believe that this floor was laid in a year and executed to perfection. Parts of the floor, maybe 30%, is in such good condition that it's as good as it was when it was laid 750 years ago.
By underpinning royal power, the pavement was perfect for its creator, King Henry III. Like his role model, St. Edward, it was believed Henry's body could perform miracles by curing people. Not only that, but Henry saw himself as ruling over England with divine authority. And the Abbey came to encompass every aspect of his power.
This building, with its stunning architecture, is called the Chapter House. It was created by Henry III, and unlike everywhere else in the Abbey, this wasn't a place of worship. It was basically a meeting room. It was where Henry talked to his courtiers. And pretty soon the House of Commons itself was sitting here. So now the fate of the Abbey had become intertwined with the fate of government.
In a curious way, of course, two things shaped Westminster under Henry III. The first is he built the Abbey, but the second is, of course, that Parliament and the whole beginnings of Parliament at Westminster belonged to his time too. And in a way the two go together, Parliament and the Abbey. Those two things which have held Westminster and created modern Westminster, in a way created modern Britain.
Westminster had become the place which created order. Even today, the legal year opens with a service in the Abbey and a theatrical display from the people who radiate power. But while today we can appeal to higher courts and we can vote for who we want in power, in the 13th century things were rather different. To the medieval mind, there was a natural order in the universe, with God in heaven at the top, then on earth the king appointed by God, under him the people in charge, and at the bottom, people like me. What this meant was that you couldn't disagree with the king, because he wasn't answerable to his people, only to God.
The more time I spend here, the more I realise that this place is all about who's in charge. Because if you're the monarch, an awful lot of your legitimacy is based on your relationship with the Abbey. It tells people very clearly that you had the absolute right to be king or queen, not because your dad was king, or you're the nearest long-lost relative, or because you're a good governor, but because God has chosen you.